Hello and welcome to this video. So this video is going to be one of the most important videos because a few weeks back I uploaded the video on listening plan for TEF TCF Canada, how to improve listening from A1 to B2 plus to crack your TCF or TEF Canada exam. In today's video we are going to discuss the same thing but for reading, how to go from a complete beginner to exam specific preparation, to train yourself for exam specific preparation, and how to ace your reading exam in French, TEF or TCF Canada. We are going to discuss about that. So that means let's start from the beginning on what resources to use step by step and how to progress further. So let's begin. In front of me I have this beautiful table that I have created for a proper depiction and proper explanation on what will be the resources step by step. First we are going to discuss about the prerequisites. That means when we are starting those particular resources, before starting those resources, what are going to be the prerequisites that you at least need to know so that you are comfortable while using the resources, okay? And then we are going to understand the motive behind using those resources, why we are using the resources, and what should be the intent behind using those resources. That means how much percentage should you be able to know, or should you be able to comprehend, or like what's the method behind it, why are we really focusing on that particular resource, what overall purpose it is going to serve, okay, and how to basically train from it. All right, so first of all let's talk about the prerequisites at A1. Now if you are a complete beginner, that means you haven't learned any French before. Well, first recommendation will be that you know a base of grammar, okay, that includes how verbs act within each other, okay, with the subject pronouns, with verbs. You must know the structurization between subject pronouns, verbs and objects, and obviously you should have a strong hold of grammar. The perfect resource if you want to start reading in French, before starting the reading, if you want to have a proper tasks for you in terms of grammar, that what lectures do you need to complete, what I would recommend is you go on to my channel Frenchify, okay, and at least complete the whole playlist. Once you're done with all these lectures, this is going to be like a prerequisite for your overall A1, that now you can start reading with a lot more confidence. You start reading before completing these lectures? Yes, you can. It just depends on how much level of discomfort do you want to have, okay? You can still just watch 20 to 25 videos and just start with the resources which I'm mentioning right now as a beginner. You can still use those, but comparatively it will be a little bit more tricky and difficult to understand those, okay? But if you want to make it easier for yourself to comprehend the reading, it's better to complete as much grammar as you can. The recommendation is at least 20 to 25 videos, but the more you do, the better it will be, obviously. So 45 plus videos would be a perfect way to start, okay? So once you have watched these videos, your conceptual understanding behind grammar will be strong enough that you will be able to start comprehending the structures of the reading practices that you're doing, okay? Now let's talk about the resources. Well, firstly we're going to talk about the books itself, okay? There is only one book which I recommend at this point specifically for reading, that is going to be Edito A1, okay? Edito A1. Specifically do compréhension écrite. Compréhension écrite in French means reading, okay? So you have to do reading exercises from book Edito A1, okay? And I'll specifically share with you as well how you can start from this book. Go on to Amazon and purchase this book. Which one to buy? Okay, let me tell you properly over here which one to buy. Do not buy this one because this is the older edition, $39.50, but buy this one, the newer edition, which is Edito A1 Méthode de Français. It's going to be purple in color, okay? This one specifically, $45.50, okay? Purchase this one. Obviously you'll be using it for listening as well, because I've mentioned this specifically in my listening plan for TEF TCF Canada as well. So you'll be doing listening from this book as well, but also you're going to do reading practice too. I'm going to open this book pretty soon and I'm going to tell you how to start doing reading from this book. As you can see over here with me, I have an older version right now, the older edition, but you will be purchasing the newer edition, okay? But if I have to show you the book, as you will be starting from the beginning, you'll be able to see that this book has particular units, and all you're supposed to do is you're supposed to complete up to unit 6 or up to unit 8, okay? Obviously the more you do, the better it is, but the least recommendation will be that you complete up to unit 8 of this book, specifically in terms of reading and listening. See, reading and listening will go parallelly, and when we talk about what to do for reading, For reading, there are going to be specific sections which are called comprehension écrite. Okay, it's very important to note this down. Comprehension écrite. Okay, basically any reading content that you see over here, this is actually your practice for reading. Why? Because over here they are showing you a lot of vocabulary. Because you are a complete beginner, they are not going to give you paragraphs right now, but they're going to show you like posters and stuff like that, so that you're able to understand the words visually while visually looking at them. Okay, but if you move forward in this book, you will see that there are specific sections which are called comprehension écrite. Let me show which one. Yeah, this one. Right, comprehension écrite, which means reading. So what you have to do is you have to read this particular text, read this like all three of these paragraphs over here, and then you have to use reverso, or you have to use a translator to translate these questions and understand them, and then answer the questions accordingly. Okay, that would pretty much be it. All the main focus over here is just to consume as much vocabulary as you can. So when we talk about the motive of why we are using this book, what is the intent to use this book? It's to get familiar with the base of the language and expose yourself to French basic vocabulary. Okay, exposed to basic vocab. Mind my bad handwriting, but you know what it means. Okay, so that is going to be first book that you will be using for your reading practice. Now there is going to be the second resource as a complete beginner, and it is actually a listening resource. But then you'll be like, oh, you know, why you are telling me listening resource if I want to do reading practice? Well, let me tell you why. Because when you are doing listening, a lot of practice happens visually as well. Like you cannot just listen to do the listening practice. You actually have to listen, but also at the same time read the transcript. And when you're reading the transcript, you have to figure out the meaning of the transcript as well, for sure. Okay, so when you are reading the transcript or the subtitles, you're actually practicing your reading in that particular manner. Okay, so for that, go on to my Frenchify podcast channel and start watching these videos. But the goal is right now the goal is not to comprehend it 100%, but the goal is to, whatever you're listening, you pause and you understand the meaning of that particular sentence, then you continue, then pause, understand the meaning of that particular sentence, and then you move forward. Okay, so this is going to be second thing that you will be doing, second resource that you will be following right now. This should pretty much be it for now. Why? Mainly because, see, the main reason why we don't want to use a lot of resources right now as a complete beginner is because grammar in itself is going to be your reading practice. Because the more grammar practices you do from the lecture and from the complete French all-in-one book, the more examples you will be reading over there, and that is going to actually improve your reading in one way or the other. Okay, so for A1, for the beginner, if you're a complete beginner, this should be your good enough priority right now to read Edito A1 and Frenchify podcast. Other than that, keep on focusing more on the grammar. Once you have a strong base of your grammar, then you start using other books. Now, when we talk about a little bit higher level resources to read, now over here the prerequisite is that you complete or get familiar with 50 to 60% of the overall French grammar. Okay, you must be familiar with most of the concepts, okay, which includes present, past and future tense, okay, which also includes all the other domains of French grammar like prepositions, adjectives, and etc. etc. Most common grammar rules that you need to know, you should be well acquainted with them. Okay, and what resource to use over here? Now earlier, as I mentioned, that you at least need to complete 6 to units of Edito A1. Now over here you start using Edito A2 evidently. Okay, but if you have not completed at least 6 to 8 units of Edito A1, my recommendation will be to keep on continue doing that, do reading practices from there. But once that is done, now you start Edito A2 and you do the same thing, complete about 8 units of Edito A2. Okay, so this will be one thing to do, which will be very, very important. And at this point, all your Frenchify podcast subtitles, Frenchify podcast, listening plus reading, subtitles should be understood. Okay, all the videos should be completed. Now over here, I'm going to add one very important book. If you're a beginner, that is going to be, let's go on to Amazon and let's understand which book it is. Okay, so you'll be going to, so just type on Amazon French short stories for beginners, and honestly you can pick any of these books. It's not important, we don't really have to select any one specific book to start reading a storybook. You can go with any of these. My personal recommendation will be either go with this one, French short stories by Dylan Moreau, Okay, you can also go with this one, 30 French short stories, or you can also select this one. See, again, as I mentioned, it does not matter because the goal to pick any specific book or a best specific book to practice. The goal is to just pick a book which has French stories to read. Okay, so that you can now start getting comfortable. Now over here, our goal will be to read the passages which includes more past, future, and obviously present tense, but mainly past and future tense, so that we are able to now connect the dots between the grammatical topics. Okay, that is the reason why we are specifically choosing story books, which the name of which is French short stories, so that we are able to now read the stories which includes future tenses, past tenses, and so forth. Over here, what you can do is you can go on to Amazon and just type in French story books for kids. Okay, for kids. Now, not for beginner, for kids. Now over here, again, the goal is same, but it's just going to be a different variation of the book that you are going to use. So you'll be able to purchase one of them and start reading that as well. However, I personally I don't really am not with this, because it's not going to be that interesting as reading French short stories or any other storybook. So even if you're able to complete that one, that would be good enough. With that, because you're also doing Edito A2. Okay, so again, we don't need too many of resources right now, because even if you focus on few resources but focus on them properly, that should be good enough. Okay, now moving on to B1. Let me first of all talk about the motive, that whatever resources we are going to use at B1, why we are using it is to now advance further in the vocab. Okay, use and understand high level of vocabulary or mid to high level of vocabulary, which is more technical. Okay, now for this, the prerequisites are that you should be well versed with the grammar. Okay, you should be properly confident. You should have completed all the concepts in the grammar. You should be familiar, not only familiar, but you should also be comfortable about the usage of tenses. Okay, and all the prepositions and different things. Once that is done, now over here you purchase this book, Read and Think French. See, all the resources that I'm recommending, these were the resources that I used myself when I was learning French. Okay, so I'm not really sponsored by anything. I'm just like recommending what I used. Read and Think French. Okay, this one, this is the specific book to buy. Read and Think French Premium 3rd edition. Whatever books I am recommending today as well, in my earlier videos as well, in my upcoming videos as well, always buy the most recent edition. You know why a lot of people have this question, oh, which edition to buy, which edition to buy? Obviously buy the most updated edition. Okay, so that's going to be my recommendation. So if this book as well, if you Amazon you see 4-5 different options, go with the one which is most updated. Okay, yes, now if I show you this book, how this book looks like from inside, it's a great book. Okay, why it's a great book? See, obviously you have to purchase the physical version. Once you purchase the physical version, you will see different sections in this book based on different domains of vocabulary. For example, for culture we have a specific domain: culture, voyage, tradition, célébration, biographie, coutume, les arts, histoire, geography, so and gastronomy. So for different domains of vocabulary, there are different sections in which there are to be different articles. If I show you the contents, okay, in culture there are going to be these 10 to 12 different articles to read. In voyage as well, there are going to be these 10 to 12 different things, and then tradition, celebration, and so forth. The reason why this book is very useful is because not only it explores the wide variety and wide domain of vocabulary, but also each one of these the level of vocab which is used over here, it's really going to expand your language comfortability and the language vocabulary lexicon in your brain. Okay, this book is going to be very difficult to read in the beginning, because even if you go on to few of the first articles over here, you will see that the topics are and the vocabulary is very difficult. The reason it is difficult right now is because we are seeing it right now, but in comparison to the future, when you would have built up your A1 A2 level vocab and the overall practice, then it will be comparatively easier, but still you will have to read it. Even though it feels difficult, you will still have to read it and make sure to use reverso, use a translator to properly dissect each and every word, each and everything which you are not able to read. Over here, now I would like to introduce one more new goal for you guys. to improve further. Okay, now as you are using this Read and Think French book, your goal should be to read at least 3000 words 5 days a week. Okay, 5 days a week you should be able to read 3000 words. That means today, if you're set to read something, your goal should be to complete 3000 words. There is no time limit. The time limit is the whole day. Like in one day you have to complete it. It might take you 4 hours, it might take you 5 hours. Okay, it will take you more time. So in the beginning, what you can do is, you don't need to, if it's, let's say if it's your first day starting your complex practice in reading, you don't have to count 3000 words, but see the time that, okay, in 2 hours how many words I was able to read. Okay, if it was, let's say, 1000 words, then tomorrow try reading 1200 words in 2 hours, and then after a week try reading 1600 words in 2 hours, and then after 3 weeks try reading 2000 words in 2 hours. Okay, overall in your learning, your goal should be to read 3000 words in 2 hours. Okay, once you start doing that, then your speed of reading will be considered good enough that you will be able to move on to B2 plus the exam specific preparation, but not just right now. Okay, make sure to properly do practice from Read and Think French. Now over here I would like to mention one more thing. Not only Read and Think French, what you can also do is you can go on to Wikipedia. Now I'm going to tell you a very simple thing to do. You might be like, oh, you know, is this really a resource? What is going on? But honestly, if you feel like, oh, you are not able to find reading resources in French, you are completely wrong, because you know we have internet. In internet we can literally translate anything to French. If you have any area of interest, or let's say if you're interested in history or geopolitics or whatever, you just search over here. Let's search history of India, 1947 to present. Now you will come across this article, but you just translate it into French. Okay, so there we go. So now what I've done is I've translated my whole browser into French. Okay, so now you can start reading this. All right, the goal, again, as I mentioned earlier, over here the goal is to read about 3000 words on daily basis. So you should be pushing on to it. In the beginning the word count will be less, but again the best case scenario will be 3000 words in 2 hours. So you read it properly. You know, you read, if you want to complete you can, but if you don't want to complete, you can move on to the next article or the next topic of your interest. For example, like let's say Sachin Tendulkar is my favorite person. I would like to know more about him. I'll open this and I'll translate it into French. Just either you can translate your whole browser into French, or just like select over here the language and translate that into French. Simply this would help you to a lot of vocabulary, which will be useful. Over here, one thing I would like to say is that please start reading at least 2 hours on a regular basis. Okay, any reading less than 2 hours is not going to be that efficient, because over here we really have to bump up our volume in order to build the speed of our reading, because speed is a very important factor when it comes to clearing the TEF exam. So yeah, you really have to work on your speed. So that is why 2 hours of practice at least, plus the high volume, because the more volume you give into reading, the more your speed will build up over the time. Okay, and now let's move on to our exam prep resources. Again, now over here, you know, obviously the goal is to do our exam specific preparation, and the prerequisite for that is actually 3000 words in 2 hours. If you've been able to now start reading 3000 words averagely, I'm not asking you to count each and every word, but averagely if you're able to read 3000 words in about 2 hours, then you can start doing our exam specific, start training on exam specific resources. Let's talk about those resources now. Now the intent is obviously, you know, to consume all the vocab, which is not only vocab but vocabulary as well as articles which are similar to TEF and TCF Canada exam format. Okay, so this is going to be our goal over here. First one is Le Monde .fr. Okay, this is a website. I'm going to show you both. First I'm going to write these websites and then I'm going to show both of them. Le Figaro .fr. Alright, so let me show you Le Monde.fr. So start reading articles from this particular news channel. You'll have to translate it to French, and just make sure to read all the articles which are free to you. Now the thing is, this particular website comes with a subscription, but it's only for the ones It's only for the articles which have this M yellow sign or this symbol in front of it. Apart from it, all the other articles are going to be free. All right, I know there are not a lot of articles which you can see right now, but for example, let's go over here in economy. Whichever ones are free, they will not have this particular yellow sign. So you just open this one and start reading. You will be able to consume a lot of higher level vocabulary over here, and that's going to be a very useful resource. And the next one is going to be lefigaro.fr. Same thing, you open this and you start reading the articles. The ones which won't have this F symbol will be the free articles to read. Now over here you can select the articles according to what domain of vocabulary do you want to focus on. For example, économie, société, sport, culture, international, politique, you can click any of these and you can read. I would recommend read as much as possible on economy because it will have a lot of useful vocabulary which will be helpful in the exam as well. So yeah, you start it. Start reading it, make sure to note down all the vocabulary and make sure to listen this article as well. You can also listen, like after you're done reading, you can listen this article as well. Now the goal over here is going to be 4,000 words in 2 hours. Okay, this is our goal. So as mentioned earlier, firstly our goal was 3,000 in 2 hours. But now once you started reading 4,000 words in 2 hours generally, now this is the time where you can start practicing for exam specific reading practice, which will obviously happen through the resource which has mock practices for TEF Canada, which is Prep My Future. Okay, I'm not sponsored, but I'm just recommending because this is the same website that I use, prepmyfuture.ca. On that you'll just have to go and buy TEF or TCF mock exams, and once you open the reading mock exams, just make sure to first attempt those, and once you get the wrong questions, just make sure to analyze the reason why your questions were wrong and what is going to be the right response and so forth. Okay, so this is going to be your overall preparation, overall reading plan for TEF TCF Canada. Make sure to follow it to the T. And if you're interested in Frenchify programs, I would like to mention that the registration to the basic programs, to the basic levels is open, so you can go on to A1 if you're a complete beginner and sign up for A1 programs. If you're someone who is interested, just visit the website. Passe une bonne journée. Au revoir.